basic postulates of quantum mechanics. What are those basic postulates? I have waited until we come up to this point, then we can understand it. We have already discussed all the basic postulates of quantum mechanics. What are those basic postulates? There are basically five postulates, basic five postulates. The first one is that the behavior, we have to say space-time behavior of a moving particle is completely defined by a function called wave function, which is associated with that particle. And this wave function is generally written as this way, or which is same as psi x, y, z. If the particle is moving along arbitrary direction x, y, z, if the particle is moving along a single direction, then only that quantity will remain. That means if the particle is say moving along z direction, then we write psi zt. So the first postulate of quantum mechanics is that the space-time behavior of a moving particle can be completely defined by a wave function of this form. This is the first one. We know it, and remember, this is the wave function by which you can estimate all the other quantities. The first quantity that you require is wave function, and that wave function can be estimated by solving the Schrodinger's equation. Basically, you need to solve the time independent Schrodinger's equation, because time dependent part of the wave function, this time dependent part of the wave function is already been estimated. You only need to estimate the space part of the wave function, and that can be estimated through time independent Schrodinger's equation. This is the first thing. Second is about operator. Second is about operator. What it says? It says that with each and every measurable quantity, there is an operator associated. And in quantum mechanics, we have all these operators as Hermitian operator, which I'm not going to discuss with you. Just remember that for each operator, each measurable quantity, you have an operator. You have an operator in quantum mechanics. Like you have position operator, linear momentum operator, kinetic energy operator, potential energy operator, total energy operator, angular momentum operator, whatever quantities you can think of, for each there is an operator. Okay, that is the second point you need to mention. So you will just write that for each measurable quantity there is an operator in quantum mechanics. Like, give some example. Like position operator is expressed is this, total energy operator is this, and so on. So just give some example. Third, that here third point you will write about eigenfunction and eigenvalue. Eigenfunction and eigenvalue. Here, the eigenfunction, that is your wave function, is always an eigenfunction. So that when the operator operates on that eigenfunction, we get back that eigenfunction multiplied with the eigenvalue, which is just that variable. Like, let me write it again. Like, suppose we want to observe the eigen operation on linear momentum. Therefore, linear momentum operator, when operates on eigenfunction, which is our wave function, then that wave function is returned multiplied with the eigenvalue of linear momentum. So this is your eigenvalue of linear momentum. This will be the operator corresponding to linear momentum. Similarly, if we consider kinetic energy, then kinetic energy operator will operate on wave function or eigenfunction, so that eigenfunction is returned multiplied with the eigenvalue of kinetic energy. Okay. We have also discussed it. Now the fourth is the probability, that psi star psi d tau is the probability of finding the particle within a small volume d tau, so that the total probability of finding the particle in all space is unity. That was the condition of normalization we have already discussed. And the last one is the expectation value. The expectation value is the result of a large number of measurements on an observable alpha. Then alpha expectation value is nothing but minus infinity to plus infinity. There is the range psi star alpha cap psi d term. So these are the 5 basic points. We have already known all these things. If you are asked write down the basic postulates of quantum mechanics, then you will write those quantities. You will first define the wave function, then you will talk about the operators. Third, eigenfunction, eigenvalues, you will say. Fourth, condition of normalization, and fifth, the expectation value. Formulation of quantum mechanics. That means when we try to apply our knowledge of quantum mechanics for different cases, like we'll start with a particle is moving along x direction, is confined between two walls of infinite potential. Then we'll find out wave function and hence other quantities. So that is the application. But for the application, we require some basic formulation. So this is the formulation we require. But you observe everything I have still discussed, considering the particle is moving along a single direction. But that is not true in general. In general, particle can be in any arbitrary direction. Then what would be the basic changes? If we have understood up to this, then we can extend our understanding from one-dimensional to three-dimensional. There will not be any problem if we understand up to this thing. So first thing, we have considered the wave function as a function of position x and time t. So now we'll extend it. So our wave function will be now in 3 dimension. Wave function will be x, y, z and time. That means we can write it as vector r t. Instead of saying x, y, z, we'll write r because what is r? The r vector is x I cap plus y j cap plus z k cap. I, j, k are the unit vectors. That's why we can write psi x, y, z, t as psi r vector. That is, r is the position vector and time. Okay. Therefore, in one dimension, how we have expressed our wave function? We have expressed it a constant e to the power I by h cut pxx minus et. That's how we have expressed our wave function. Remember, kx minus omega t, that was the expression. I kx minus omega t, that was the phase. So that is written in terms of momentum and total energy as this in one dimension. So if I express the wave function in three dimension, without going into calculation, I can write it. Without going into the calculation, I can just extend it. So then there should be a amplitude, then I by h cut as before. Now in 3 dimension, the particle is moving along x, y and z direction. Okay, that means in other words, it has component along x, component along y, component along z. It is going in the arbitrary direction, so it has component in all possible directions. Therefore, it has component of momentum along x direction, component of momentum along y direction, component of momentum along z direction. In the previous case, here the particle is moving along x direction only. That's why its linear momentum has component along x axis only. That's why px only. Py, pz 0. But now Py, pz will not be 0. Now Py, pz will not be 0. Then how can I write it? So we'll write it as, since it has x component, so px remains. It has now y component. It has now y component, so py will also be there. We'll write pyy. It has z component now, so we'll write pzz minus et. Just the extension. So in other words, when the particle is moving along y direction, say, then these two will be absent. If the particle is moving along z direction, then first two quantities will be absent. Simple. So this is the 3-dimensional wave function. Okay. Next, what we have done, we have estimated defined quantum mechanical operators starting from linear momentum operator. So let's try. So now our wave function wave function is a e to the power I by h cut exx plus uyy plus zz minus et. Okay, what we require? We require linear momentum operator. Okay, linear momentum operator. When the particle was moving along x direction, then linear momentum operator was px. Now the particle is moving along arbitrary direction. Therefore, what about its momentum? First thing of it, what about its linear momentum? Is it be along x direction? Is it be along y direction? No. The linear momentum operator will be in the direction the particle is moving. That means if the particle is moving along this direction, linear momentum operator will also be in this direction. So it is a vector now. So now linear momentum operator is a vector. So what is that linear momentum operator? This is our linear momentum operator, say P. P has three components, Px, Py, Pz. So we can write it has x component along I direction, Py component along j direction, and Pz component along k direction. I, j, k are the unit vectors along x, y, z directions. So this is our P. So I now require to find the operator corresponding to this linear momentum. That means our eigen equation should be that some operator which is linear momentum operator, is a vector operator because momentum is a vector, operates on psi so that we will get back psi. So we get back psi multiplied with momentum. That is our eigen equation now. Remember in that one dimensional case, this was the eigen equation. Because we had only px then. We know the direction. We need not to bother about the direction. So we have treated px to be scalar only. But now p is a vector quantity. Be careful. So the process will be similar to the previous case. So in the previous case, what we have done? We need to find out this px. Px is here. How can I extract px? By taking del psi del x. So we'll do the same thing. So if I take the del psi del x, what will come out? I by h cut px comes out, but then a e to the power etc. That means psi. So px comes out. Okay, px comes out. But what I require actually, we require px psi only. So we'll write it as we want only px psi on right hand side. On the right hand side, we require px psi because psi we require and momentum we require. Here momentum is here x component of momentum. Therefore, it is h cut by I, that is minus I h cut del psi del x. Clear? Clear? Similarly, what we can do? We can find out del psi del y, which will be I by h cut py y into psi. That means minus I h cut del psi del y, which will be equal to py into psi. And third one, del psi del z. I'm doing all the calculation, though that is not required. Similarly, you can write it is minus I h cut del psi del z pz psi. Okay, so you observe why I have written it. So you observe on right hand side, in the first one we have px, second one we have py, third we have pz. All the three components of p are now estimated because this is p, this is our p. P comprises of px, py, pz, and px, py, pz we have already estimated. Done. So what we'll do now? We want to write down an equation with the help of these three equations so that this can be written. Some operator operates on psi, then we get back psi multiplied by linear momentum operator P. So how will you do that? Just multiply I cap with first one, j cap with second one, k cap with third one. Do it. So, and then add. So what I am doing, minus IH cut on left side common. I cap is multiplied with the first. So I cap del x plus I cap del x of psi. Okay, this is the first one. This is the first. I have multiplied I cap with this first one. I have multiplied I cap with the first one. So we have minus IH cat I cap del x of psi equal to, on right hand side what we have, I cap px psi. Now second equation is multiplied with j cap. So it is minus IH cat j cap del y of psi. On right hand side we have j cap py. Do it by yourself, then it will be easier. Third, this one, k cap is multiplied. So it is k cap del z of psi, and here it will be k cap pz. So minus IH cat. What is this quantity in bracket? I del x plus j del y plus k del z. It is del operator. It is the del operator operating on psi. What is this quantity on right hand side in bracket? Is the momentum, linear momentum P. You observe, we have obtained it. So this quantity, this I8 minus IH cut del operating on psi comes out multiplied by the momentum. So this is the eigenfunction. Psi must be an eigenfunction. This is an eigenequation. Eigenvalue is momentum. So what is our linear momentum operator here? Minus IH cut del. So this is the three-dimensional representation of that momentum operator. In one dimension, we had, if you remember, in one dimension, Px operator was minus IH cut del x. You observe, this is a part of this operator. What is this operator? Minus IH cut del means I cap del x plus j cap del y plus k cap del z. You observe Px is a part of this minus IH cut del x. Similarly, Py would be minus IH cut del y. So this is our linear momentum operator in x dimension. Sorry, in 3 dimension. So in 3D, what will be the changes? So linear momentum operator now becomes minus IH cut del, that is minus IH cut I del x del y plus a del z. Okay. Next, kinetic energy operator. What was the kinetic energy operator in 1D? Minus h cut square by 2m del 2 del x2. Check. That was the kinetic energy operator in one dimension. Now, without doing the calculation, the same way we can do it. Just like in case of momentum operator, we can find out the kinetic energy operator in 3D. In fact, in the note, I have given you the full calculation. But instead of doing that, you can know that value. Because this is the one dimensional case, you have estimated it. The kinetic energy operator in one dimension is this. So what do you think when we extend it for 3 dimension? In 3 dimension, the particle is moving along x, y, z direction. So other quantities must also be present. That means we must have del 2, del y2 and del 2, del z2. These two must be present also. That means kinetic energy operator in 3D is minus h cut square by 2m del 2. Del 2 means del 2 del x2 plus del 2 del y2 plus del 2 del z2. Potential energy operator remains same. Only now it is a function of x, y, z. That's all. Position operator same. Total energy operator same. Because it doesn't contain x, y, z. It's a function of t. So it remains same. So in 3D, only the basic difference is the linear momentum operator and kinetic energy operator. And if you remember either of one-dimensional or three-dimensional case, you can write the other one. Okay. Next, what we have done, we have estimated first we have wrote down the Schrodinger's equation, the time dependent Schrodinger's equation. Remember how we have done it? What we have done, we have said that kinetic energy operator plus potential energy operator when operating on psi, then we get total energy operator operating on psi, because kinetic energy operator plus potential energy operator is same as total energy operator, because in the conservative system kinetic energy plus potential energy represents Hamiltonian. That one. Then what we have done, we have used the expression of kinetic energy operator, potential energy operator, total energy operator, we get the Schrodinger's equation. We will do the same here. So in 3D, what we will do? Now we will write down the kinetic energy operator as minus h car square by 2m del 2 del x2 plus del 2 del y2 plus del 2 del 2. Instead of I am writing del 2 plus v. V is now v only, is a function of x, y, z operating on psi. We get IH cut del psi del. This is your time dependent Schrodinger's equation in 3D. This is your time dependent Schrodinger's equation in 3D. Because if I write it in this way, if I write it fully, then it is minus h square by 2m del 2 operating on psi plus v operating on psi, we get IH cut del psi del. In one dimension, we have minus h square by 2m del 2 psi del x2 plus v psi equal to IH cut del psi del 2. That was the time dependent Schrodinger's equation. So here this is our time dependent Schrodinger's equation. Without doing any calculation, we can write. Next, what we have done, I told you that it is hard to solve because space and time both are involved here. So space and time should be separated from each other. And in that separation process, we say that it is what we have done. We have assumed that psi, now RT, in the previous case it was psi xt, is a product of two functions, one space dependent, another time dependent. Same thing we will do. And then separation of variable techniques, we get the time independent Schrodinger's equation. Okay. What was the time independent Schrodinger's equation? That we got. That was our time independent Schrodinger's equation in 1D. Okay. That was time independent Schrodinger's equation in 1D. What will we do here? We'll add other two quantities. That means now we'll write it in this way. Let me erase it. That was our one-dimensional case. Now in 3D, we'll add y and z dependent part. That means minus h car square by 2m. It was d2u dx2. Now we'll write del 2 del x2 plus del 2 del y2 plus del 2 del z2 u plus v u equals to u. That is our time independent Schrodinger's equation now. So only we have added these two quantities. We have added these two quantities. This is our time independent Schrodinger's equation.